Hi, my name is Clarissa and I work in pattern making and product development in the garment industry. And today I wanted to discuss why dress sizes fit so differently in different stores. During the last couple of years, many people spoke out about inconsistent sizing at popular retailers such as H&M, Zara or Gap, and many news outlets and content creators picked up on it and started doing size comparisons showing significant differences between the different brands. So why can't our clothes fit the same at different stores? First, a little bit of history. The need for ready-to-wear clothes arose in times of war. The US mass-produced military uniforms during the War of 1812 based on men's chest measurements. In the beginning of the 20th century, clothing was still tailored to the individual, with upper-class folks taking their clothes to a professional and others tailoring them themselves, making them fit the wearer and also to fit in with current trends. In Europe, ready-to-wear clothes also first gained traction in menswear, as that is a lot more difficult to tailor at home, and it really became popular during the 1930s. Now, during the Second World War, the European fashion industry was heavily impacted by scarcity, rationing, and also anti-Semitism. The French ready-to-wear industry had 80,000 workers in 1938. In 1943, 5 years later, only 25,000 workers were left. America had already been incredibly successful promoting ready-to-wear clothes in the interwar period. So in 1940, a large study was conducted where 15,000 women were measured with the goal to create a standardized sizing system. However, due to flaws in the study designs and the complexity of the resulting sizing system, the findings of the researchers were dismissed. With the capitalization of diet culture, tabloids reporting on celebrities' dress sizes, and lifestyle brands promoting their diets with letting you lose up to 2 dress sizes became something that defined us. A small size became desirable regardless of fit or comfort, and still to this day, many people wear clothes that are actually too small, and thus vanity sizing was born. Fashion brands discovered that people buy more when a smaller size fits them, so they stopped trying to standardize sizes. They deliberately increased the measurements of their garments so that someone wearing a size M usually could now fit into a size S, and a person wearing a size S would now fit into an XS. This way, smaller people got pushed off the charts and brands started adding measurements up to a 000 as with J. Crew and Abercrombie & Fitch, and with that came the outrage. CNN did a segment on the size 000 and they invited a plus-size model to discuss it with. Now, judging by the style of the segment, it just seemed like shallow daytime TV to keep users engaged, and while the moderator did start with a sarcastic opening statement, he did later mention vanity sizing and also the fact that J. Crew said this size was intended for smaller built Asian customers. The plus-size model states that the existence of a size 000 puts a lot of pressure on women. Then she ditches a question about vanity sizing and goes on to explain that 68 American women are larger than a size 12 and that such a small size would push them into dieting and also eating disorders because they could never be a size 0. Those people would then have to go online, for whatever reason, to purchase larger sizes at J. Crew. Then she goes on to state that women wouldn't want to be a size that indicates nothing, and a size 000 would reduce their self-esteem before finally bringing up standardized sizing as the solution. The model's arguments do showcase the variety of problems we as consumers have with this topic. It is great that we finally managed to break free from the extreme diets and senseless workouts of the 2000s, but the dread of stepping onto a scale or finding an old pair of jeans that doesn't fit anymore is still ingrained in many who grew up during that period. And while we do know and acknowledge the problem of vanity sizing, body image issues or the fear of falling back into them is what makes many people support it eventually. The existence of small sizes is almost considered to be a threat, but at the same time we can't stand seeing ourselves move up the size chart, as would happen if we downsized the actual size of sizes again. In 2018, H&M changed its UK sizing system and increased their sizes by 1 standard deviation to meet customers. There's a fly in the room. In 2018, H&M changed its UK sizing system and increased sizes by 1 standard deviation to meet shoppers' expectations. One article from the Time reads, H&M sizing has remained more reliable than most, though some would say reliably small. H&M has been criticized for running smaller than most American brands and for being out of touch with the average American woman, who often felt alienated as a shopper. This is essentially the reverse of the vanity sizing controversy that has plagued American brands such as J.Crew in recent years, which received widespread backlash for the launch of its infamous size 000 in 2014. Still, some customers think that these changes aren't enough and that more sizes should be added. According to the article, the changes were not only made in the UK but also in the United States, Canada, Mexico and Colombia. This indicates that regional differences also come into play with sizing. A country where the population is generally larger may be more vocal about wanting larger size ranges at their disposal. And since companies know that vanity sizing works, they may feel tempted to offer clothes that are cut a bit larger to appeal to these populations. Other brands entering that market then have to adjust to the vanity sizing those companies may already have implemented, and thus the cycle continues. I have a Mango coat which I thrifted in 2017, but I'm pretty sure it was from the mid-2010s. And on its size label I can read it's a EU size XS, and in Mexico the same coat is labeled as XXS. So not only are brands determining their own sizes, but it also depends on different consumer markets and other factors that I do not really count as being a part of vanity sizing, such as issues with the supply chain and also the target group in that specific market. So to gain a more objective perspective on the matter, we should take a look at this chart from the Washington Post. It shows how the standard dress size increased between 6 and 8 inches from 1958 to 2011. It shows how waist and bust circumference are related to dress size, with the smallest standardized dress size being a size 8 in 1958. And if we compare the very small 000 measurement from the aforementioned brands to this chart, we will see that while the size is very small, it is not off the chart. Brands didn't just start adding ridiculously small sizes to mess with us. They just added these small sizes that were previously pushed off the size charts by years of vanity sizing. J.Crew's 000 would have been a size 8 in 1958, and the same goes for Abercrombie & Fitch. And while we're at it, this is also why Marilyn Monroe is not a current US size 16. In the last decade, people started to celebrate Marilyn Monroe, but not because historians worked really hard to finally put the record straight after decades of sexism tainted her image and ridded her of her personhood. It was because people praised her for her curves, claiming that she was a size 16 as the average woman, and thus she became an icon to the body positivity and fat acceptance movement. Now, if we look at Marilyn Monroe's measurements as stated by the modeling agency she was signed with in 1945, she measured 36 inches bust, 24 waist and 33 hip, or in centimeters, that is 91.5 centimeters bust, 61 centimeters waist and 86 centimeters hips. And the agency described that to be a size 12. Comparing these measurements to current size charts, she would be a size XXS or 0 or EU 32 in waist circumference and commonly a size M in her bust measurement, although that seems to vary a lot, which I find is really interesting. It looks like American retailers assume a larger bust measurement than European companies. At Abercrombie's and J.Crew she would actually be a size S, US 6 or EU 38 in bust measurement. H&M places her as a size M, EU 40 or US 8. And Gucci and Valentino place her bust measurements to be in between a size M and L, meaning a EU size 38 to 40 and a US size 10 to 12, while all these companies agree on a double XS measurement for her waist and an XS measurement for her hips. Now going back to the chart from the Washington Post, in 1958 standard sizes, this leaves her at a size 8 in waist measurements to a size 14 to 16 in bust measurements. The discrepancy between this source and the size stated by her modeling agency may be due to some vanity sizing happening between 1945 and 1958, or simply to the agency using a different sizing system. And there we have it. Marilyn Monroe was a size 16 before decades of vanity sizing. She would only be a size 8 today, and that also only goes for her bust measurement, as she was very top heavy. Marilyn Monroe's weight did fluctuate a lot due to health problems and pregnancies, but the weight listed by her modeling agency in 1945, the weight on her ID card from 1954, and finally the coroner's report from when she died in 1962 are consistent. I honestly don't think it's right to dig up the largest size a person with well-documented health problems has ever been and use that for one's own agenda. When you're fluctuating due to medical problems, especially gynecological issues, body weight becomes a very sensitive topic beyond the runs of culture and vanity, and I don't think she should be further exploited in that way. The American Society for Testing and Materials, as well as the Joint European Standard for Size Labeling of Clothes, propose standardized size charts, but both seem to struggle to establish generally applicable size labels, and they are of course subjected to vanity sizing as well. So will we never have standardized sizing? I personally am convinced that we must standardize our sizing for the sake of the environment. Ordering 3 pairs of jeans online just to send 2 of them back, or not being able to thrift online because the sizing is just too inconsistent, isn't environmentally friendly. Of course, this goes against the goal of large corporations who are often market listed and want infinite growth. And we as customers have to do some personal growth as well, because standardizing our sizes could mean that we need to size up on the size charts. I honestly remember being pretty bummed about never being able to fit a size 2 or 0 in spite of my low weight, simply because my bones are too large. Embarrassing, I know. In addition, one must also take into account that bodies have gotten more diverse during the last century. Not only has a sedentary lifestyle and food abundance left its mark, but we've also gotten culturally diverse. Companies started to cater to a global market, and ill or disabled people are advocating for safe and accessible clothing. So instead of crazy big corporations trying to cater to everyone, we would greatly benefit from many different clothing lines with transparent communication on their sampling methods. A Japanese university student is simply different from a Kenyan woman, a Dutch mother, a Mexican grandmom, or an Indian athlete. Let's support more size and proportion diversity, not only with the usual petite, tall, or plus sizes, but also with curvy clothing for people in wheelchairs, unisex, or teen sizes. I would love to hear your experiences on that. If you learned something, please give this video a thumbs up, and if you have any information on sizing in fashion, please dump it in the comments below, because I love to nerd and I'm super obsessed with this topic in a weird way. But most importantly, don't let abstract numerical sizes get into your head and make you feel bad. Just read the size charts, and see you soon for another video of this kind, because I've been hyper fixated on this topic for a very long time now. So thanks a lot for watching, and see you soon.